All right, guys. Well, I feel like a lot of you have been here. I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces. Love that you guys do have your cameras on. If you are in a position to turn on your cameras, it does make it a lot more fun for the rest of us to not be talking to blank screens. But appreciate you guys being here in whatever way you can, you know. Um, how this group call is going to go. I know a lot of you know the drill, but some of you may be new. As we're going to start off with wins. This is where we want to hear what good is happening in your life, in the business. You know, it could be new hires, revenue, profits, or maybe just a job that went smoother than you thought, you know, or a situation you handled. What learning do we have to share this week? So would love for you guys to go ahead and start thinking about that, what good is happening this week. And then we're going to get into the open Q&A. Know, I had a client ask me yesterday, "Hey Nicole, what are concrete companies charging per linear foot these days?" And I was like, "Oof, no idea. No idea. Come to the group call because there's probably a contractor on the group call who can give you an answer and I cannot." And so this is a great opportunity to ask those types of questions because you've got contractors on this call, questions about your softwares, or of course you've got coaches on this call too if you have questions about cost plus pricing or anything like that. That's why we call this the most valuable hour of the week, as you've got so many resources to tap into. So I'll get off my soapbox. What wins do we have this week, guys? Would love for you to unmute. If you can't unmute, put it in the chat. Maria, I see your hand up. Kick us off here. What good's happening?
Oh, I got to get my mic down. Okay. So I just want to reiterate from last week. So Riley, my boss, is back from a family emergency. His, for lack of better words, brother-in-law died in a motorcycle accident. So he flew out to be with his sister for a week. And his office staff handled it because holy cow, everything just kept moving. Like we didn't have to pause for anything. And he's back and he's like, holy cow, like I just get to jump back into it. So I just want to reiterate that office staff is elite.
Yes, yes. Well, I've been thinking about Riley this week, and I'm so glad that he has you and, project managers to support that. Otherwise, this would, I mean, a super stressful situation that only would have been more stressful. And so he actually emailed me earlier this week saying how well things have been going. So appreciate you sharing that, Maria. What other wins are we having here today, guys? Unmute, put in the chat, fire away. Anything good going on, guys? I have a feeling there has to be something good.
Maybe. Yes. All right. Sounds like Halloween was a spooky week indeed. And the aftermath maybe a little less winsome, and that's okay. The election's behind us. That's true.
Dale, that is a win to just have it
true.
behind us. No matter which way you were rooting, it's just nice to have it done. To be
How
on
many
this side of
people
it.
had estimates or bids out that suddenly called you back this week because the election's now passed? Anybody have bids that called back? If
I've had a couple remodelers tell me that this week, where it's like it seems like people were just waiting, and now it's like getting back to normal. And we hope that we see that. I know we're approaching the holidays, but speaking of that, I had one of my wins from a client who just kind of got through their slower season. And a big win from them is that this is their first year that not only did they not have to go into debt to fund that slow season, but they were actually able to still pay off some debt throughout that slow season because of the work that they've been doing with Profit First. And so that's a huge win from Garden Diva. Use that as encouragement, guys. If you are not doing Profit First, I promise it can help you a ton with your cash flow and just being more prepared. So,
yeah. Another plug I would put in there is follow up on your leads this week. Any unclosed bids that you have out there that you just haven't talked to in a while, we're big proponents of follow up. We talk about doing it for 10 business days, 2 times a day, call, text, email. But if you haven't done that, if your follow-up process is different this week in particular, just burn through your whole list of already quoted bids. That is your closest opportunity to closed work. even if you got a whole bunch, if you got 30 new leads this week, you'd still have to take them through your whole process. But those people that already have a bids, just go ahead and give them a call, run through that this week.
Yeah. Cody, I see your win here in the chat. Want to recognize it. This is a big deal. Cody has been the only one in the company with a CDL. He's the owner of the company, so you can imagine he has been a lot of times get pulled into the field because he's the only one with that license. But it sounds like you hired a driver. So Cody, want to celebrate that with you. Love to see that before the holidays. Hopefully that will give you more time off, which is well deserved and needed. Any other wins happening this week, guys, before we jump into the Q&A? Okay, let's get into it here, guys. Why did you come to this call today? What is a burning question that's on your mind? Would love for you to unmute, put it in the chat, raise the hand. What's going on? Jason, I saw you unmute.
Me?
Yeah.
No, I didn't unmute. I've been on here. I was looking back at
Okay.
my some of my questions. The question that I have, and I'm just trying to think of how I should put it out there, but it just goes back to this cost plus method. I'm just starting to look into that, and I don't even know for sure how to do this question, but we're looking at changing over to that cost plus method. Where I'm still looking into it so I can get with my team and kind of go over that stuff. But we've just kind of got everything set up with that new accountant that we got hired on and everything. So is there many people out there that are doing a cost plus method?
Jordan,
Yes.
thoughts, comments? Tell us. You might be still
So,
muted, Jordan.
Jason, here's a question that I have that I hope will be helpful, and it may help get to how you want to phrase your question, is what I'm hoping for. But I want to ask, when you think about a cost plus, or what you understand right now about a cost plus, what potential reservations might you have? What are you concerned about compared to how you've always done estimates?
Yeah, so basically, I just want to make sure that I'm doing it correctly, because right now, I mean, I've got them. It's taken them so long to do estimates because I really have them digging into everything, like every tool, every part, everything that they're trying to use, just to make sure we're not going to be losing money. So that's taking a long time for him to put all that stuff together. And I'm just wondering, I think the cost plus method is going to be quicker for him. But just trying to understand it and making sure we're putting everything out there correctly.
So I recently met with a like construction law attorney in the state of Washington. We're a cost plus contractor, and we have a customer who's shorting us on payment. They're not wanting to make payment, and we might have to file a lien on their property, right? Not fun stuff, but it's what happens, right? And so, in speaking with him, he kind of, I don't think he intended to give me this, like sort of impact. I don't think he was we weren't talking about the best ways to do cost plus, but he was just going over some of the legal stuff of a cost plus contractor. Now, this is in the state of Washington, right? Anything that we give you, I just want to make this clear. Any template that we give you, any like working agreement, proposal template, whatever, these are not us saying this is a perfect legal contract, you're ready to use it. Review that with your attorney. Make your own stuff. We are not attorneys, right? So I just want to make that clear. I'm not giving out legal advice here. I just am telling you what my experience was with an attorney. All that to say is my basic takeaway from that interaction with him was that you can create almost whatever terms you want to create as a cost plus contractor that's going to make the most sense for your business. So for example, right, there's sometimes this assumption that customers can have. about, hey, whatever's in the bid, that's all I'm going to pay, right? There is nothing about our industry and the way that you guys work that makes that a rule, right? And what do we find when we go? Sometimes we find that projects, is why I'm an advocate of cost plus. The scope is larger than what we first anticipated. That's not because you're a bad contractor. That's just because you weren't able to see that the framing was so old of the home that the entire frame of the home may need to be replaced, right? Just to give an example. And so, you know, what I basically learned from that was that you can still do a markup, for example, for anything on a cost plus method. You can mark up materials. You can, like what we do is we charge a standard labor rate of $80 an hour, right? So in our proposals and our estimates, we calculate how much it's all going to be, how much we estimate the labor to be, do that. You can even have people basically pay you anytime you touch anything in their home, whether or not it's to do the original work or even rework or repair work, right? Legally, as long as that's in your working agreement and contract beforehand, you can even tell people, hey, a lot of times we run into customers that assume if something needs to be repaired or readdressed, or maybe there's a mix up, that they don't have to pay for that. But how we work is that anytime we're doing anything, it's real easy. It's just an $80 an hour rate, right? Think of us as your contractor employee. Anytime an employee does anything of yours, unless there was like a clear boundary set up, right? A clear agreement made, you're going to be paying that employee, right? Or if they're on like an hourly wage or something like that. And so I share all that. I may be getting long-winded and jumping around a little bit, but I share all that to simply say that all a cost plus estimate is going to the customer and saying, hey, you want to hire me. I don't want to charge you an arm and a leg. I don't want to dramatically inflate my estimates, subjectively, so that you're wondering, why is this taking how long it takes? It's just real simple. Whatever we do, we want to get paid for it. And then we want to make a profit on top of it so I can continue to earn a living and run my business. And so we charge, like what we do at Power Builders right now. Like we charge people at cost materials. We charge people at cost subs. We charge an $80 an hour labor rate. We don't pay our guys $80 an hour. That's not lying to a customer, by the way. Whatever you pay your guys isn't the true labor burden, right?
Right.
So I pay our guys an $80 an hour rate. And then we have a 5% project management and scheduling fee and a 20% contractor fee. And then I tell people the way that we work is we don't base those percentages off of the expense total. We base that to make sure our expenses are only 75% of what you pay. That's how I explain that. So that your P&L can have a true 25% net margin or gross margin. And so, like for us, we make a lot of profit from our charging our labor rate, right? We have the contractor fee as well. We have the 5% to cover our overhead, but we have it's almost like we have the $80 an hour labor rate that really protects us in case, customers, there's an issue, they want us to rework something. We can easily say yes to it without worrying about, okay, this is just going to take us 2 days. We have margin on this job. We can just cover this for them to be nice. Right. But all you're doing when you're creating cost plus estimate is you're literally just planning the project. You're planning the project and then you're putting out, okay, if this is going to take this long at a standard labor rate, I got to charge this. Then you're going into the meeting with the customer. As long as this is reflected in your agreement, you can say, like, we have a price escalation clause in our agreement, right? Which basically says the final price of the proposal does not dictate the final price of your project. There are some things beyond our control that happen in a construction project. Things could be weather delays. Things could be, if the customer's ordering materials, they order the wrong materials, right? It could be change orders. It could be making a mistake. Like, you can tell people that, like, sometimes mistakes are made, right? Or sometimes when we strip down your walls and do demo, we find that there's a lot more to address that not even you as a homeowner knew about. And so what we do is we say, whenever that happens, we pause, we let you know the price difference, and then we get your approval before we continue working. But we never, I should say, we've made a mistake in doing this, and this really hurt us, right? Of continuing to work without getting pay. Never do that. There's nothing that says you have to do that. Never do that. And I'm like trying to be intense about it because it can so harm your business. Have you guys ever done that? Have you guys ever like continued working and paying subs and paying for materials and you're like trying to collect a payment?
Yep.
I've done it. I've done it. It's like everyone does it, but they're like, you do not have to do that.
Nor do you have to be this villain or bad guy in communicating that you won't do it. There's a way to communicate in such a way that is, hey, this is just the way we do our process, not because we don't trust you, but just because we can't do work on a project we haven't been paid for.
No, it's just like, it's just real simple. Hey, it just doesn't make a lot of sense for me to spend my own money to like improve your home. Like, why would it? Yeah, it's almost like assume that asking that is crazy, because it is. It's like, hey, we just, how we work is we got to stay ahead of the money. You know, good thing to you is that you're never going to get a bill from me that you don't expect, right? We're always going to be talking about it. We're always going to be working through stuff. But just to let you know that if we can't collect, we just have to pause the job. It would be better for you to walk away from a job, something that I've never done, right? Something that I think most high quality people don't want to do. We don't want to leave people like that. But it would be better for you to walk away from a job if a customer is trying to take advantage of you or spin things around on you or whatever, than it would be to continue working, hoping that you're going to get paid, because it will absolutely murder your cash flow, all your profits.
Yes. And one thing that Bryce just put in the chat, he put a few helpful tools here. And I'm actually wondering, Robert, if going through the cost plus tool might be helpful for people to like tangibly see what that looks like. But Bryce also put the working agreement on there, which again, setting expectations with your customers beforehand saves a lot of uncomfortable conversations in the future. Side of that agreement, we've got price escalation clauses, we've got the policy of what's going to happen if you do fall behind payment, we've got the draw schedule, we've got change orders, how do we handle that, what's expectations there. If you go over that in the beginning and have them sign, your chances of running into those issues throughout the job, those conversations are just going to be a lot easier. You're setting those expectations.
Okay, I got like a real world story that happened to me this past week that maybe some people can't appreciate. So we are doing this bathroom remodel, right? It's turned into like a bathroom and kitchen remodel, turned into a much larger project, but we have a change order process. We followed the change order process. We stayed ahead of the money. We're making good money from this job. Well, I started getting more involved with the billing just because it's such an important part of the business. So I started working directly with some of these customers, and there's this customer that I had that we had a final electrical inspection, and our agreement was that she could pay her final bill on the day it passes inspection, right? This was like, I think ended up being, let me check real quick. I think it ended up being, it was really just going to be like a little job, like 25 or 30,000. I think it ended up being like 60 or 70 something. Okay, so no, it was like 53,000 is what it ended up being. And so that was our agreement, right? So first thing that she does is we schedule the electrical inspection for the beginning of the week, Monday of last week, right? She pushes it till Friday. So electrical inspection happens on Friday and it passes, right? Passes, everything looks good. And then she comes back and she was like, okay, well, you guys need to finish XYZ. You guys didn't do this. So I said, okay, we'll take care of that. So we send our guys out there. They knock that stuff out. Then I send her the bill and she sends me another email where she's like, oh, I shouldn't have to pay for this and this and this. And I kind of tell her, hey, we never agreed to that, but just to be nice to you, we really appreciate you working with us. We'll give you that, right? So then she sends me an email where she says, I'm going to have to find a painter. And I want you guys to pay for it. And I'm like, I have no idea where this comes from, right? So I just like call her, right? It's always better, by the way, to address tough conversations over the phone. Just don't text. I know people want to text because texting like allows you to avoid actually having maybe a uncomfortable conversation with someone. But it will always go better if it's done over the phone. So I call her and I am like super empathetic. It's like I've done these conversations before, right? I'm like not coming on the phone, like demanding that she pay us, anything like that. I'm just like, hey, I saw your email. I just want to know what are you thinking? What's going on? Tell me a little bit more. So she starts talking to me and I'm listening to her. And then I go into like very calmly trying to resolve this stuff. And she gets very short with me and she keeps cutting me off and saying, nope, no, I'm not going to pay you guys. I'm going to find a painter and I want you guys to pay for it. And I'm like, well, we've already given you a fair amount of like free painting work. And this is the first time that you've mentioned this to us. And we first sent your invoice 10 days ago. It just seems like whenever it's time to actually collect, there's something that pushes the goalpost a little bit. Cuts me off. Nope, it doesn't matter, whatever. So anyway, all that is I had to transition. And you do sometimes have to transition in these conversations. So I told her, I was like, okay, so here's what we're going to do. If your bill's not paid today, we're going to add $100 a day in late fees until your bill is paid. If your bill is not paid by the end of the week, I'm going to add back all the fees that we removed, which was like, I think $2,200 worth of fees that we removed. I'm going to add those back into your bill plus the interest charges. And if we're not paid by Monday, then I'm going to file a lien on your home because our signed working agreement says that if a bill is not paid within 7 days of it being sent, then we're going to do these things. And then I said, and if we still cannot get money from you, we will be involving attorneys. And per our working agreement, you will be required to pay the cost of our attorneys to recover the payment. So she goes, okay, can you send me that in writing? I said, I can send you that in writing. Send it to her in writing. An hour later, she paid. And I don't like getting that way with people. That was the first time I've ever had to do that with literally anyone in the history of business, right? However, it's going back to this thing that Nicole was talking about. If you have certain terms that are reasonable and fair, right? We had a 7-day grace period to make payments. We often even skip that grace period if someone needs some help that we trust, right? We have a process to handling this. Having that kind of leverage can really prevent you from going upside down with someone who is a bad customer. And it's not even so much, as the last thing I'll say, it's not even so much that they're a bad customer. It's just something that happens to people whenever they get stressed. Construction has been going on in their home. They feel like they're living in a construction site. They just want the job to be done. They're spending a ton of money, probably the most money the customer's ever spent since the purchase of their home. Maybe they're spending more than what they put on as a down payment for your project. They're spending tons of money. When people are in that state, they get a little crazy, right? They're under high stress. They're stressing money. Surgery has been being done on their home for the past however long. And so you want to have grace and understanding for that, but often that will come as an attack to you, which is why it's so important to have your processes dialed in, to have the money collections dialed in, because and to have your terms real dialed in, very fair terms. You're not looking to take advantage of people, so that when you run into that with people, you're not on the hook for it. So does anyone, I'm kind of curious if anyone else experiences stuff like this, or is it just me?
I mean, Lance even made the comment, are we trading war stories? I think every
Oh,
single
wow.
person on this call could say that they've been in a similar situation to that.
Yeah, Roger of Rogers Plumbing told me it happens to everybody. So I know you guys are just hiding. You're just letting me
Yes.
embarrass myself. No, and again, I'm not even trying to like change a war story, or trade war story, as much as I'm trying to illustrate a real life thing of, hey, sometimes like it's really important to have your terms dialed in.
Yep.
You know, especially on the billing.
Yeah, and that's what I would say is the biggest takeaway that we tend to come back to a lot in these conversations is the proper expectations up front. We know what to do. You guys all know what to do. A lot of times it comes down to simply doing it and doing that
Right.
prep work. It
That's
takes
really good.
whatever it is, the hour or two to actually really look over that stuff. But here's the stuff to equip you, right? The links in the chat there, the working agreement. Take what's great from that and put it into your contracts. But you just have to be able to do that first and attach it in your contracts so that it always protects you. Because Robert couldn't have done any of the stuff he talks about in that story if he had no ground to stand on and it was just verbal things. So just put
We wouldn't be getting paid is what would have happened. We would have.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Jason,
okay, we got some hands raised. Yeah.
Jason, I was going to ask you, was your question more of how to make the actual price or how to communicate it to customers? Like, where did your question more so lie?
No, I mean, in reality, we kind of are doing a cost plus. Just trying to, I guess, basically, he's gathering all the costs of everything, and then basically the cost plus is just adding like 20+% on there, and then at that time, but he's gathering all that stuff and then marking it up, but I think he's doing it individually as far as if it's a small item, he's marking it up more. If it's a large item, he's marking it up, a certain percentage or whatever. But with the cost plus, it's just basically you're gathering all your costs, you're tagging on that 20% and then calling it good. Is that?
Yeah, that's basically what you're doing. You're building out the scope of the project, and then if you have any markups, you can mark up whatever you want. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm saying make your estimates in such a way where all your business expenses being covered, truly being covered. Right.
Yeah.
And so make sure that is panning out. And that's not really something to figure out. That's just like a few quick decisions. Right. And you're just line item. What's our material? What subs are we going to have to hire? Do I need estimates from them or do I know them well enough to know around abouts what they charge for this kind of work? How much of my own team's time is this going to involve? Great. We get that total. And then if you have a 25%, maybe you have a 20% fee plus a 5% project management fee or something, then all you're doing is dividing that total by 0.75. That will give you your final price that you need to charge. You're not multiplying it by 0.25.
Right. That's something I want to particularly highlight because from your language, Jason, it sounded like you're familiar with doing like 1.25, like when you say tacking on that percentage. That's a markup. That's not taking a margin. So the way that the math has to work is you divide by the percentage of what you want your cost of goods sold to be of the final price. So that's what Robert means when he's saying divide by 0.75. A really great way to verify kind of your pricing on this and how you're doing it is just putting your receipt numbers using this tool that I put in the chat here, the cost plus estimate tool. You put your direct costs in here, and then down below, this is where the magic all really happens, is just at the end. So you get your total cost from your materials, suppliers, any equipment, and any internal labor is what this is for right here. But then you have your miscellaneous cost of goods sold percentage. So this would be things like gas to and from the job, maybe your time actually putting together the estimate, any office staff that you have kind of scheduling and coordinating. And then you've got your overhead fee and your contractor fee, and this is where we would do that. In this case, would be dividing your cost of goods sold by 0.7 to find that total end price. But if your overhead or profit margin is something that you're changing, then you would change it here. So this is a great way to validate or verify how you're finding that price and make sure that this is all set up to do the math that proper way to get the margin rather than just tacking on a markup.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd equip your guy with this if you're working with him on
Yep.
that.
And that's what we're working on, is getting him to do filling this one out instead of the old form that we used to use.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. So you're well equipped. You got the tools and resources that you're needing for sure.
We got some questions
Yeah.
real quick. Vadim asked a good question. How are the customers signing the contract, physical or digital? We used to do physical, now we do digital. So we use PandaDoc. It's the same tool that we use at Redmond Growth. You can also use DocuSign. I would recommend to do it digital because it makes the storing of the signed contract super easy. If you do something physical, at some point you're gonna have to scan something, right? So it just takes that process out of it. And you don't run the risk of like losing it or anything like that. So it's up to you, but we do digital. I mean, it's not like it's any less valid. Okay, we got some questions here. I'm not sure who is first. Jordan, you guys want to shoot?
Yep. So we recently had something along those lines too, where we had to remove some stuff that a customer had to pass an inspection. And basically at the end of the job, he expected us to put it all back the way it was, but we had agreed that we were going to remove it for inspection purposes. We never talked about anything about putting it back. Basically, they had run a bunch of stuff in plumbing PVC and not electrical PVC. It was all exposed when concrete was broken up.
Yeah.
So that was like something where I can definitely see how these processes would help in a situation like that, because it was literally just like what you're talking about. He was holding up payment and things like that. And he was just one of those crazy customers. We had like 3 days of rain straight, and he accused us of basically, when we removed all that stuff, of like messing with his downspouts and like flooding his footings of his building.
Well, did you do that though?
What?
Did you do that to him though?
No.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, we had 3 days of rain straight. The trench was gonna fill up with water one way or another.
Yeah, it's like, what the heck?
Yeah. So, anyways,
Once I asked you that, Bryce immediately rolled his eyes. He knew what it was right when I asked. Anyway.
Yeah.
But my like main question here is, has anybody used a different processor for collecting payments like out in the field? Right now we're using either we're using QuickBooks currently, thinking of transitioning to House Call Pro's payment processing, but we're getting charged like 3%, and I assume there's something that we can get closer to like 1.5%, or and I don't know if anybody has experience.
I'm not sure. I would recommend you like looking into that, just because your transaction volume is probably pretty high. But part of what you want to think about when you're making that decision isn't just what's the lowest like percentage fee rate I can get, but also like what's going to be the most efficient way to collect. Like that's kind of my first priority. Because if the new system, like I know that there's processing systems out there that do those kind of fees that you described, like 1.5%. But a lot of times it's like the technology is not very good. That's how they're able to get it so low. So I don't know if anyone here has any recommendations. I have like one specific recommendation that we use or we used to use at Redmond Growth. We don't use it anymore. We just use Stripe now, but which is one you may want to look into. Stripe, STRIPE. Yeah, Jordan, do you have a recommendation here?
Yeah, so we use a combination of QuickBooks and House Call Pro, depending on what it is, because if we're doing credit cards, House Call Pro is only at like 2.65% if they're doing a card. They do ACH on House Call Pro too, but they're actually a little more than QuickBooks. They're about 1.5%. Where QuickBooks is 1% or a max of $15. So anything over $1,500 makes more sense to do a QuickBooks ACH payment. And I use that a ton because I just tell customers like, hey, credit card fees cost a lot. But we could do this at no cost to you. And it doesn't matter if it's $30,000. I pay $15 whenever I send them a QuickBooks ACH payment. So it's really easy. And for the small stuff, for service techs, they know up to $1,500 they can do the ACH with House Call Pro. Anything over that, we'll send customers a QuickBooks payment link. And you can choose from QuickBooks what's allowed because, you know, we take credit cards and ACH, but I just make sure when we send the big ones, we just make sure the ACH is the only option available for them to pay that with. That way, I learned early on, you need to make sure to do that because I had a couple that went through as a credit card. And I was like, oh, crud, not good, but I couldn't go back after that. So just make sure you select that option. That's dirt cheap. $15 is nothing on 30 grand.
Compared. Yeah. And again, guys, like with credit card fees, that it's all about just setting expectations in the beginning. Here are our options of how we can accept payment. This is when we will collect payment. You know, let's just set those expectations before we start the job. If you want to avoid the credit card fee, which would add blank to your bill, either the percentage or the amount or whatever, here's the other forms that we can accept payment. As long as you're setting those expectations at the beginning of all, people are not going to be upset. A lot of times they're like, oh yeah, you know, those credit card fees, they'll get you. Like a lot of times they kind of like understand you and are just as annoyed about it as you are. So just set those expectations at the beginning of the call, give the options, and then you shouldn't really run into issues. But the last thing you guys should be doing is absorbing those fees. That's going to just hit your profit. And you're not the bank, you know, don't feel the need to absorb those fees. Just set expectations and give options before you start the work.
Yes,
Jordan,
big time agree.
One more thing here on the issue of like him assuming that you were going to do something that you never said that you would do. Something that we recently started saying to customers at the beginning of the job before we start is, hey, if it's not on the proposal, if you don't clearly see it on our mapped out scope of work, then it's not going to be done. And so if you're seeing anything here that you're thinking through this and you want to clarify, let us know now, because what we have here is what we're going to do. Anything else outside of that, we're not planning on doing. And something that I do a lot of times when people like say like, well, this was part of the original scope of work, I just say, hey, if it was, I just need you to show it to me. Just if you could show it to me where it was, because I'm not wanting to get in an argument. It's not on here. And so if I'm mistaken, though, I'll listen to you. I just need to see where it was. And that a lot of times solves it too. James, what's up, buddy?
Can you hear me now? All right. Hey, so
Yes,
Bryce,
sir.
I had a question back on the cost plus deal
Tool.
on the tool there. So, and I've been using it more or less. But the let me pull it up here. Where you have like the labor rates, where you're saying any of your any of your interior labor that you need included, then that goes in there. My question is like, because I do a very detailed line item estimate, like drywall, material or framing labor, framing material, all that sort of stuff. So, and then a lot of my guys are subcontractors. However, I do have a couple of guys that work for me that I could put in the labor part. How would you transfer that cost, that in that estimate right there is, $6,700 into a line item cost when you already have your cost of goods percentage, miscellaneous items, and those other things? Is that making sense?
Mm,
How would you transfer that to an actual written line item estimate?
meaning,
I mean,
are you talking about this line item?
estimates,
or
or is everybody doing lump sum stuff?
Sorry, Jason. Jay, are you talking about the labor line item
Yeah,
or this
the
miscellaneous?
yellow part right there. The
This
yellow
one.
part, yeah, is
Yeah. Yeah. So this can take a lot of different forms. You can put ancillary costs. You can put, let me see, I think we have it in this document as well. Pretty sure.
because in the other, not this one, not the one you're showing there, but in the other one that's only
The
it's a
working
70%.
agreement.
Well, the 70% cost of good ones instead of the 75% cost of good ones, unless you've changed them that are different on mine.
Yeah, it's
There
different.
is-
You just
Okay,
put
yeah,
this-
'cause there used to be an ancillary labor, which was the 5%. Now then it's on here, it's called miscellaneous cost of goods.
That's
Okay.
right. Yeah. So you can change it and term it how you need to, but ancillary labor is one of the terms you can put in there. If it is things that, so what this is for is costs directly related to the job
Mhm.
that might be categorized typically as overhead. These are overhead that's not specifically related to that job. And that's how they're different, kind of the project management. So yeah, you can put ancillary labor. There's lots of different ways you can term that on a line item.
Okay.
Can I add to that?
Go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, so like I recently did a $12,500 job, and I had in the labor lines probably like almost 20 different labor lines because we know how long stuff should take. And I put that on the proposal. It was broken down that way. I don't do every project that way, but on the ones that make sense to, I do. So I'm basically building a scope of work kind of as I go on a lot of the ones that I do. And a lot of that transfers over to my proposal. I'll put proposal notes with a scope of work at the bottom. And that's worked out really well. Did that make sense, what I was saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Luca, you've had your hand up for a while here. What you got, sir?
I was just curious to see if we have access to that contract
Yeah, for
that
sure.
Robert was talking about.
Yeah, he threw it in the chat.
Oh,
Just
okay.
again, we recently, I forgot who it was, but one of our clients assumed that like this was a ready to go legal document, and just never assume that with anything that you get from anybody unless you get it from an attorney. So if you have a attorney, I'd recommend that they take a look at this.
Yeah.
You
So-
could use this without reviewing it with an attorney just to have something. It's just if you ever got into a situation where there was some sort of, trial or legal case, an attorney hasn't in your state hasn't looked at this document, then it may not be very strong in that situation.
Yeah. And if you're needing access to it to edit and change things and you want to just use this, simply enough, you just go up in the top left file, make a copy, and then name it whatever it needs to be. Just file, make a copy. But yeah, you can grab that from the chat and I'll put the link in there again so it's you don't have to scroll so far up to get it.
Something we started doing for just liability reasons. I actually have on my working agreements that if we make markings on site that differ from prints, we take pictures of them, and that supersedes the prints. And they're the change is is enforced by the prince, because I've had customers come back later and go, well, that's not what we talked about. And I've been able to pull the pictures back up and go, well, no, do you remember the conversation we had that day? And I took the photo, here it is, and here's our markings. And it makes the conversation so simple because they're like, oh, okay. You know, I've never had anybody push back on the photos. So I actually added
that's
that
so
wording.
good.
Yeah, I added that wording into our contracts, and it's saved us several times from long drawn out conversations to there is no more conversation anymore because I got the proof right here. So just another tip.
How do you know how that's actually worded?
If you give me a second, I can pull it up and tell you how I worded it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Curious.
We can move on to another question if we want.
Jason,
I'll
go ahead.
jump back in.
So I've been trying to get the one sheet ready for Nicole to help me with, and I'm struggling with certain. I mean, I've got the, you know, some of the non-tangibles, but I'm trying to find something as a small remodeling company, you know, repair company. I'm trying to find something out there that we're actually trying to find something to where, whether we get distributorship or something like that. I didn't know if there was any other remodelers out here who might, you know, if they have a one sheet, if they could throw me some ideas as far as some intangible items that they've been using. Coming up with something material wise is what I've been focusing on, but that's going to take a little bit more research, finding something that, you know, that something that we carry. I mean, right now we're just going to Home Depot or whatever and getting whatever we need. But I mean, we've got good customer service, you know, quality work, you know, stuff like that. I just wonder if there's some other stuff, some other things that I may be overthinking that some other people have wording that they have used on, like on their one sheets.
Do you mark up materials?
Yes.
When people are done working with you, and one thing you could do is even look through your Google reviews. What are they saying whenever they're saying why they've loved working with you?
Well, I mean, we don't have a lot of Google reviews, where that's another thing Nicole's got me working on, but
That's okay.
I mean, everything is just I mean, everyone's very happy with their finished product. Like we've got a couple flooring where we've installed some LVT and stuff like that, and they're very happy with the finished product.
Okay, so when I hear people are very happy with the finished project, where my mind first starts to go when it's like, okay, how could we make that into something tangible as a selling point is what you're wanting help with. Wait, what are our clear, tangible selling points? Where my mind starts to go when I hear that is something around a satisfaction guarantee, something around a warranty, something around, like I know Rogers Plumbing, they do something that's like a satisfaction guarantee, but they say, happy today or you don't pay. Right.
Gotcha.
And it's basically like, you know, we will make sure that we work the entire scope of work to your satisfaction, and you know, you're not paying the final bill until you're satisfied. Now, maybe that final bill is ideally a small amount, right? It's not going to put you in a maybe dangerous position. But I would think about things more like those lines. Could you offer some sort of guarantee? Could you offer some sort of warranty? When people are so happy about the finished work, like you could even come up with something kind of corny, but like real, where it's like happiness guaranteed, right? That's kind of a more unique way to say satisfaction guarantee. What does that even mean anymore? Happiness guarantee. We guarantee that by time we are done and finalized from your project, you will be happy. And if not, we'll buy you a steak dinner or something. We'll give you a $250 gift card, right? Something that you can start saying that you can back up with not a high leverage, costly, you know, thing if they weren't happy. But I would start thinking like, okay, what are people consistently saying? Right? Or what do I do? Maybe you even heard other contractors, you know, talking about challenges on the group call. It's like, what do I do uniquely that benefits the customer? right? You probably don't realize it. That's probably why you're asking. There probably is tons of things that you do and the way that you work that people really love that they don't get everywhere, right? So it's like
one of our big ones is cleaning up after ourselves. Like we never leave a mess, which is big because I talked to a guy the other day, and that's what him and his wife, and that's what she said. She goes, "My kitchen was cleaner when you guys left than when you came in." She goes, "We really appreciate that." So
that's a big thing. So
Yeah.
how could you turn that into a tangible item?
yeah, that's what I'm trying to come up with, is trying to.
So you could literally say something like, I want to use something besides guarantee, but like you could say something like cleanliness contractor like around or something like this.
Yeah.
And where you basically say the tangible thing is that we have a standard to leave our job sites on a daily basis better than what we found them. If you are ever dissatisfied with how we leave a job site, if you ever feel like it's a mess, if you call us, we'll be there to clean it up in 24 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, to not overthink it, you can also say something that's very simple. It doesn't have to be this catchy line item for every one of your UVPs, right? They're going to understand what it is whenever you say it. We clean up after ourselves. Then you describe it as we've been talking about, but we clean up after ourselves, like Mama taught us. You could say that even. Those sorts of things. You don't have to overthink it as long as it's there and you have that talking point is really the main value. It's a reminder. And there is some value to it being a one-liner that people can really remember, but I think even as simple as we clean up after ourselves.
Yeah, and that's what I think. I feel like I've just been
Headline.
trying to get too tricky with it, and
Yeah.
which I don't want to do. I've been spending time thinking about this, and so maybe I just need to simplify it a little bit.
Cleaner than how we found it. Better than how we found it. We always do that.
You're all you're doing is what's the stuff that you're already doing, and then just put it on like a list. Like come up with 4 or 5 things. Give that to Nicole. She can help you.
Fluff it up.
Smooth
Don't
it
feel
out.
like, and this goes for anybody, like you're giving your benefits for your one sheet. Don't feel the need to like make it sound fancy. We just need to know what you want to highlight. We'll make it sound fancy.
Yeah, that's true.
Fluff it up for you.
Yeah,
Hey,
if you're struggling on
two unique ones you can use, okay? For the cleanliness thing, the pickup promise. We promise to pick up after ourselves on every job site. If not, we'll clean it in 24 hours. Or the cleanliness contract, right? Some alliteration. The cleanliness contract. Our cleanliness contract means that we leave our job sites better than what we found them. If you think there's a mess, call us. We'll clean it up immediately within 24 hours, whatever.
I
like the pickup
just
promise.
firing them away there.
Yeah, that's Maria. I love this. And this is the stuff that I like doing for clients. I'm like Maria over here where I love coming up with this stuff. And this is the stuff that Bryce hates.
Oh yeah, I like that.
The fun stuff.
We'll treat your home like it's our own.
Yeah, I think it's something that I commonly will say to clients that I think any of our team would agree with. If you're stuck on something that you're just really struggling on for more than an hour, like one of your action items is just really getting you stuck, reach out to your coach. Don't stay stuck. We would love to help unburden that and have you utilize us. The other thing that I also was thinking about is ChatGPT is a really great tool for some of this stuff too. Just pop that in there and see what it puts out. And that, it won't always be great, but that can help at least get you over the hump and kind of get the gears turning again as something like that. But use us. Use your coach. Don't stay stuck on your own.
Cleanliness karma. If we leave a mess in your house, you can come to my house and leave a mess in mine. You can make my house messy if we make yours messy.
I love it.
Okay.
Cool.
That's the schoolyard version of like, you could punch me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got that wording. It just says a full walkthrough and mark out will be performed to make sure customer gets everything they're asking for, and permanent markings will be made to the studs and floors with Sharpie so that nothing gets missed. Any changes made from prints will be made by permanent Sharpie markings. These markings will supersede what is on the prints and will be enforced by the taking of pictures that will have all the markings clearly visible.
Cool.
Love it.
So here's what I got from that. He just has the process on a contract, right?
Nice.
Yes. Yes.
However you want to do things, just put it on there. And
Yeah. And same
review it
thing
with
goes
people.
for change order, guys. And this team, if you have a project manager, if you have somebody who is on the job more so than you are, or like who could be communicated to by the customer, if a change order happens, we need to have it documented and agreed upon in a written form before we move on. So you never get into a situation where a customer's like, well, I thought we were going to do blank, or I thought that was included in the price. No, we sat down, we went over the new price and timeline, what the change order was, and we agreed upon it. Make sure your subs know that all change orders need to be approved by the project manager or you, whoever's the point person. Save you a lot of headache in the future.
Yeah, and I think that works better for us because we do, I'm an electrical contractor, so somebody might move a plug or on the mark out. Classic example. I had one where we just were discussing whether to switch a plug for a disposal or if they just wanted to do a pneumatic plug. For us, the work's nearly identical. It's just how do we want to tackle that for the customer? And so they decided, well, there's no room because of this window here. It comes all the way down to the top of the countertop. And funnily enough, the contractor was there with me when we had this discussion. And so they decided, you know what, let's do the pneumatic plug, cut a hole in the counter, so it keeps it nice and clean. We'll still have access to it. We don't have to open a cabinet to flip a switch on, whatever. I get to the finish, we finish it out, and I get a call from the contractor, and he's like, what happened? Why is there no switch? And I was like, well, man, you were there the day with me that we did the walkthrough with the customer. You saw me make my markings, right? Yeah. I said, okay, well, I took pictures, and I said, I have the pictures of the markings that we made. I said, did you guys object to what I marked? Did you see what I marked? And he was like, well, no. And I said, all right, well, I'm going to send you the picture, and you can see that we marked we were going to do pneumatic disposal. And the crazy part was he tried to tell me his memory was better than my picture.
Well, Jordan, we love that you had it documented, and hopefully that saved your tail in that situation.
It did, but I guess the point was like this process works well for us because if we move a plug or a switch, it's not a big deal. If it was like a moderate change, of course, we would make a change order for that, and we have that in our working agreement. But also notate that like on stuff like the plugs, switches, locations, I'm not going to charge them a change order unless we've already completed the work of that kind of stuff. Once we've completed that work.
For anybody who doesn't have a change order or does, if you want your coach to review it with you, even with the working agreement that we put in the chat, it's totally customizable. And so coach, make it specific for you. The main thing is that we have that policy, we go over it with the clients, and we kind of, live by it. Make sure that's signed, make sure you're referenced to it. But I know that we are approaching the end of the hour here, guys, and you guys are busy. We want to let you get to your schedules. I know that I have a one sheet to review with electricians near me right now, so excited to show that to you guys. But we're going to close out this group call the same way we do every single one. So if I could get a bunch of unmutes, I'm going to see it. The microphone's coming off. Love it. We're going to do a 3, 2, 1 growth. 3, 2, 1 growth.
Growth.
Bye, guys. Have a great week. Thanks for being here.